and Nicole, and they had their introduction. So welcome them, everyone.
I'm going to use this. Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure this is on. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is something that we always do when we do presentations for the ARC of Pennsylvania. We just want to run it through there. Everybody is welcome. It's a safe zone. So again, share your ideas, share your thoughts without any concern of negative feedback or anything like that. We always just like to throw that out there for all of our presentations. That's important for us. And then again, you're all adults, get up, use the restroom, do what you need to do. We also know that you have needs. So do those things, doodle, fidget, do whatever you want to do.
We're going to model it because we all have fidget.
Yeah, we have stuff. So. Our coworkers up here with us. Yeah.
If you stopped by our table and you have the orange fidgets, please feel free to use them. We're not going to be offended.
We won't even be offended if you put them on the table and rip them off and make that really cool noise.
We also have a Padlet that's available. If you were in here early, you had access to this already. But if you use your camera on your phone, you can scan the QR code, or there is a link there. I'm going to leave this slide up for a little bit. I'm just going to try to tap dance a little bit so that you can all get access to that. But it does have our PowerPoint on there, as well as other resources that we recommend. We're going to talk about some research studies today, and those are also linked on there. So just, nice little dashboard of information for anybody who would like it. I don't see any more phones up.
And that will be up forever, yes. Right?
Yep.
So you have access to that. You can also share that with families, colleagues, whoever you want to. So keep that in mind.
All right, I'm going to start. So my name is Nicole Meyer-Emery. I am an Include Me specialist with the ARC of Pennsylvania. Include Me is a program where we work with school districts to include students with disabilities in those general education classrooms. And that's my main purpose. But I'm also certified in ACRE. So I am I'm certified to do job coaching, supported employment, all of that. I am seeking my certification in discovery. You can see my background out there, and my contact information is up there too. So Jen's will be up in a little bit. If you have any other questions, you want to reach out to us, it's there. Reach out to us.
And we probably saw a lot of you yesterday, or you met our coworkers.
Yeah.
So our program director, that's Nicole Turman. She was going to be with us today in person and then was going to be with us remotely. She is homesick, so she is not with us at all. So we miss her and wish that she could be here with us today. So that's Nicole. And this is me. I have been with the ARC of Pennsylvania for 7 years now. I started teaching 5th grade after graduating from Bloomsburg University. Love that. Then went into the field of early intervention and then found myself at the ARC of Pennsylvania. So I've got that whole, I feel like I've got everything from little kids all the way through the whole span of life. And like Nicole, I am certified in ACRE, also certified in the whole part of customized employment. So discovery, job development, and systematic instruction. So those are some courses that I teach here.
Those are our outcomes.
Yep.
You probably saw these already. All right, we're going to jump right on in and start.
And we will answer your questions. We were thinking if you've got questions, we'll try to wait till the end. We've got tons of information. If you've got them, jot them down. If you have a question, you just cannot wait, raise your hands. Somebody will get to you. So we understand.
Yeah, we have a limited amount of time. So we want to make sure that we get you all the information. We'll be here afterwards. If you have a question that we didn't get answered, you can come up and talk to us. All right, let's jump on in. So we're going to talk about job development. We're going to talk about social capital, and that's where we're actually going to start our discussion today. So as human beings, as the species, we have a natural ability to communicate and to relate to other people. Like we have this it's in our brain. It's the science of it. We are a social being. That's just who and what we are. We have these mirror neurons in our brains that allow us to recognize other people's emotions. This is also why when you see somebody yawning, you also yawn, because you're just mimicking what it is that they are doing. But friends are really crucial to our quality of life, right? We rely on them for a bunch of things. They are our social networks, but they are also our support system as well. So social capital is a term that refers to our networks and our connections. That is what that is that we're talking about. It's also our connections to the broader community, everybody that's outside of maybe our close circle and, broader from there. We use our connections with people to solve problems, access materials, access support groups, the new restaurant that's down the street that just came, maybe the new cookie shop that just opened, or ice cream, or whatever it is. We use our social connections to have access to all of those new and great things that are opening and in our communities. So this photo here is kind of a great representation of social capital, right? You as the individual are in that blue box. Blue box.
Blue
Word.
box.
Box.
It's rainy. It's second day.
Yes, it is. Maybe just not enough coffee this morning. But we are that center of that square. Everything around that is what makes us us, but it's also our access to the greater community. We build social capital through the connections that we have, through the activities that we are engaged in. It also impacts our identity and who we are and how we navigate our world. It impacts us through multicultural impacts to our own lives. Human networks, human connections, they all have value. You as a person kind of distinguish that value. You are the one who puts value on them. So the people that are closest to you have higher value, right? Because they're your support system. They are the ones that you are reaching out to. They are that close-knit. Maybe as they go out from that circle, they get a little bit less valuable, but they're still valuable in a way.
I was just thinking, I'm just hopping in.
Go ahead.
Because if any of you were in this room yesterday for the relationship panel and the young adults that talked about that, this is not new stuff. Relationships are vital. Those human relationships, everybody needs them. Everybody has to have access to them. So it's important that we encourage that and make sure that the kids in our lives have access to that. And that's kind of some of the things we're talking about this morning.
Yeah. Social capital is actually even a soft skill. We've all heard of soft skills, right? If you're a parent, if you are a teacher, if you're in the community, soft skills is the thing. It's a thing that you use to get jobs, right? Social capital is a part of that. So we teach students how to read a bus schedule, maybe how to get on the bus, how to get to a job. We teach them how to read a menu and how to order. But the part that we miss sometimes is how to make that connection with maybe that bus driver that they're going to see every morning, or maybe that waitress that's at that restaurant that they're going to see consistently if they go there time and time again. Those are all social capital as well, and they can lead to broader social capital and broader social networks. So you can kind of break social capital down. We were talking about those rings, right? We're in the center. Our families are out a little bit. They are around us. And then you go out a little bit further from there. We can break those down into these three types. So bonding social capital is our informal connections. Those are our family. They are our friends. They are maybe our paraprofessional that works with us, our special education teacher, our general education teacher, anybody that's really in your life. Those are your informal connections. Your bridging social connections, those are the ones that you're maybe associated with an organization, a club, maybe your local ARC, maybe your local YMCA, Kiwanis, Rotary, any of those other kind of clubs.
Service coordinators.
Yes.
I'm thinking about the list that
Yep.
I'm looking at the list that we had made, and those are the ones we talked about. Yeah.
And then the bottom there is linking social capital. So those are the ones that are even further out, that are maybe more of a state chapter. So being associated with the state chapter, the ARC of Pennsylvania, or the ARC of US, or maybe AARP.
Who put that on there?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But they put it on there as a list. Everybody knows what AARP is, right? It's a good example.
We're going to say Nicole Turman, but AARP on there because she's a little older than I am.
But those are those organizations that might have systems of advocacy or policy impact, or might be able to fight in those realms and those worlds.
I'm not offended by that. It's okay. Connections are important.
It's connections. And that's kind of how they're broken down. So why are we talking about social capital? Why is this important? Why do we need to stand here and say social capital is important? Well, it's for many reasons, right? People with disabilities are at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to social capital. Think about your own social capital and think about maybe your students' social capital. Communication issues, environmental issues, transportation issues, accessibility, stigma, aversions, all of it. It hinders your social capital. It hinders your connections to the outside world. That also then impacts their academic world and then their job development and then also their access to having careers and careers and businesses and how many businesses are available to them. Leads to lower wages, unemployment, even being involved in the criminal justice system, which is completely awful. To even stand up here and say that that is a result of,
Poor social
capital. Yes, exactly. So when there's no social capital kind of in place, students with disabilities, we find that they sometimes transition to the couch, right? They get from school to the couch because there is no connection in between that is connecting them to a business that maybe they can get a job at or another program that they can go to or be associated with a college and go off to college. And they just kind of, end school and then go home. And that's kind of where they go.
Or even having those connections of, oh, my friend goes to the YMCA every day and works out, or goes to a job or does those kind of things, or we go every Thursday to our youth group at the local community center, things like that. So having those experiences and knowing people that have those experiences is vital. Again, part of the human experience is that big social piece.
Mm-hmm. If we don't presume that the individuals that we work with or our students or our kids, our children, if we don't presume that they are able to make friends, then chances are they're not going to make friends, because unfortunately it happens that we put those barriers around them and say, you're going to go where I go because safety, right? I was in a training yesterday talking about safety, and safety is a real thing, right? We are concerned about safety. But if we put this bubble around them and don't allow them to make those connections, then unfortunately their social capital decreases and sometimes those other things as well. So we want to presume that they are able to, because presuming competence is a thing. We want to do that, and we want to do that when students are making friends and they're making those connections.
When you were talking about in that bubble type thing, we have a colleague who was working with a young man who was in his 20s, and his family was very focused on, again, keeping him safe and making sure he went to places where the family thought he should go. And the young man talked to our coworker and said, you know what? I want to go hang out at the local theater. I enjoy acting. I want to be part of that, like the local community theater. And the family was like, no, that's like, that was like your neighborhood theater. And that's where he wanted to be. And that was not even a place that the family thought he could or he should be part of. So again, keeping that in mind and listening and hearing, what people are telling you and what your students are saying and what your kids are saying, and looking for those opportunities and being open to that, that's huge, because it's what that young man wanted to do. That was his career choice. That was his interest and talent, was being part of a theater group.
Yeah, just like we heard this morning already, she was talking about if they want to work, we're going to figure out how. We're not going to force them into the mold that we have already put in place for them. We're just going to be like, okay, you want to work here? Let's figure out where you can work. What piece of this puzzle can you make up? And it's the same thing with the individuals or our children or whoever that you're here for. Having them have those connections and being able to engage in the activities that they want to engage in. All right, you can write this on the notepad in front of you. You can think about it in your head. You can type it into your computer, type it into your phone, or just keep it in your brain. I don't really care. But what I want you to do,
share.
I don't care, but think about it. If you needed help today, something happened, who would you call? I would call my husband. He's my first call. Yeah. Who do you trust? When something great happens in your life and you want to tell somebody, who do you call? I call my best friend, Caitlin.
because we always talk about this if something bad happens, but like if something good happens too, you get good news, you get a new job, you get something great happens in your family. Or last week on my way home here, I was in an accident.
Yeah.
Who did I call? First call was my husband. Yeah.
Who's
Those
on-
kind of things. Yeah.
Who's on that contact list? Do you have an emergency contact list in your phone?
Those
Probably.
ice in case
Yeah.
of emergency. Yeah.
Yeah. I can almost guarantee that the majority of you, as you were writing down your list of contacts or thinking through it in your head, probably had 3 to 5, maybe to 10 people that you're like, I could reach out to. I know I can call if. These are all pieces of social capital. This is your social capital. These are the people that you want to reach out to because they're important in your life. Okay, this is more of a discussion for everybody. So what was your first job? Anybody out there? McDonald's? Yes. What was it? Dunkin' Donuts? Yeah, retail. Arby's? Yeah. Back there. A hotel? Yeah. I was a camp counselor. I was a lifeguard. Jen was a camp counselor. Of those
Babysitting.
people who answered, are you still in that position? No. How did you get that position?
My friend worked there.
You had a friend that worked there? You knew somebody? Oh,
Grandma.
yes. We see that quite often, right? Your family owns a business and they're like, hey, you can come work for me when you turn 16. That's awesome.
We talk about being, I was just gonna say, we talk about being camp counselors because we went to churches that talked about camp and we were campers and then camp counselors. So our social capital came from going to camp and we knew them and we knew the people. I also babysat for people that were in my church. So that was my social capital growing up in a small town. I'm looking, Kathy, who I went to school, who I grew up with, small town. We knew the people that were in our town and our community. So it's like, oh, you babysat for the Smith family, maybe you can babysit for the Millers next. So word of mouth, that thing. So that, again, social capital, having your grandmother be your boss, whether that's good or bad, that's your connection. And we need those.
Yes, they're so important. It led you to your first job. And then that first job led you to another job that led you to another job that probably led you here. And those are all stepping stones. They are all pieces along the way. Unfortunately, sometimes though, with our individuals with disabilities, we get them that first job and that's where they stay. You get a job, hooray, hooray, you got a job, that's it. You're not allowed to leave. You're not allowed to move on. You stay here because I know it's a safe place. I know where it's at. I know your coworkers. That's it. That's not realistic in the world of humans, right? We change our mind. We decide to move on. We make new connections. We find a new job. We find a new interest, whatever it is, and we move on. So that should be also allowed to the individuals that we work with, the people that we serve, our children, our students, whoever. That opportunity should be allowed to them.
And I just think about that, like we grow, because as much as I loved being a camp counselor and I love babysitting, I could not be doing that now. I have friends that are now directors of that camp who that's what they do. And that's great. That was one person out of like 30 that I worked with that did that.
Over many summers, I bet.
Yes,
Like-
many summers. Yeah. And again, like you saw, we talked briefly about our career path. That might be something you like, but you learn and grow over time. So you can't be expected to stay in that same career
And
or job.
Yes, every career that you pick up, every job that you pick up, you make new friends, you make new connections. They tell you about a new organization or a new restaurant or a new building that's being done or whatever it is. You pick up new things as you go through life. We should allow that to our individuals with disabilities as well. All right, we're going to talk about Greg. We're going to talk about Greg's story. So Greg is a young man. He has Down syndrome. He grew up in Kansas. He was mainstreamed in school, which meant that he was in a general education classroom for as much as was possible. He was allotted to attend classes until he turned 21 years of age. At 21, he graduated and was ready to work, but he didn't know what he wanted to do. Who's been there, right? It happens all the time. I was there. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I thought I knew and I didn't. It happens all the time. So Greg had a next door neighbor named Alex. who had also graduated with him. And Alex had recently got a job at Walmart. Great. And although Greg and Alex knew each other, they were friends, they were neighbors, they hung out a little bit. Their interactions were a little bit limited though. So sometimes on Saturdays, Alex would pick up and take Greg down to the YMCA with him. Probably playing some basketball, maybe go to the pool or something, having a little fun as boys do. On one Saturday, Greg asked Alex how he got his job. He was curious. How'd you get your job? Because Greg, had been looking for a little while and couldn't find anything. There was nothing available to him. So Alex explained that his dad knew the manager at the Walmart, and that helped him a whole lot to get that job, right? That's how we all got our first jobs too. We knew somebody. Alex said that he would ask his boss, maybe if they were hiring, but also talk to his dad. So the next Saturday, Alex came, picked up Greg, and they were on their way for their Saturday morning activities. But when they turned down a different road that was not going to the YMCA, Greg asked where they were going. What's going on? We're going a different direction. Alex said, we're going to the Y. We're not going to the Y today. We're going to go to Walmart. My boss wants to meet you. Greg met Alex's boss. He interviewed for a position, got the job, worked hard. Greg's hard work then reflected positively on Alex, and increased both of their values to the team. Alex's because he brought another quality employee, but Greg's because he showed what he could do, right? He was a valued member. He shows up, does the job. Although it was not known to Greg at the time, Alex's father also spoke to the manager at Walmart and said that he mentioned he had watched Greg out in the yard, watching him doing a lot of yard work, and described him as a nice young man who worked really hard. He was always out in the yard doing things, and that he was very easy to get along with. And he was also responsible because he was consistent on doing that yard work and being out there and getting it maintained. So Greg's story here is an example of using social capital to get your foot in the door, right? He used Alex, he questioned. It's a natural question that you might ask somebody, one of your friends, no matter if you have a disability or not. You might ask somebody, hey, you got a job. How'd you do that? I don't know this world of employment. How'd you do that? Tell me the know-how. Tell me the skills. And he did, and he got a job from it. Let's talk about Mary Ann's story. Mary Ann recently learned she has breast cancer. Oh, hold on. Let me tell you about Mary Ann for a second. Mary Ann is a 40-year-old woman. She has mild cerebral palsy. She lives in a group home. She has no immediate family and limited friends outside of that group home. She keeps to herself and is not really active in the community. Mary Ann recently learned that she has breast cancer. It's a thing that happens in life, right? She has shared this information with some of her staff members and some of her fellow residents of her group home. She feels afraid. She feels alone. She feels isolated and depressed. In her recent person-centered planning meeting, one staff member suggests that she finds a cancer support group. With advice from her staff and a doctor, she decides to try out a support group at a local breast cancer clinic. There she meets Claire, a breast cancer survivor and mentor assigned to Mary Ann. Claire begins visiting Mary Ann regularly, accompanies her to the hospital throughout her chemo and her treatments in her recovery program. Claire soon becomes a personal support for Mary Ann, right? That's a natural thing that kind of progresses when you have this natural support that's out there, helping her to get fitted for a wig, helping her to, connect with the support group. Claire introduces Mary Ann to church, and she starts going to church with her as well, in another support group. Through all of these social opportunities, Claire really introduces Mary Ann to a lot of supports that she can have, natural supports that she can have, and new relationships that end up developing throughout those new connections. Mary Ann's story demonstrates the importance of formal networks in helping people with disabilities develop that social capital. Her relationship with formal organizations such as her group home and doctor's offices put her in touch with a breast cancer support group. This helped her develop a personal relationship with her assigned mentor, which was instrumental in the success of her program, of her therapy, of her treatments. We know we're social human beings. It's only natural that when something devastating like this happens, when you need that support, that there is somebody that's there and able to support you throughout that. And that's going to increase the success of those therapies and those treatments. Mary Ann, after this, also feels her feelings of isolation and depression and just feeling alone. They kind of all go away because she's feeling included. She's feeling connection to her community. She is feeling supported by people that she has chosen to let into her inner circle. Both of these stories really showed two different paths, right? In social capital, right? Greg used Alex as social capital to get a job, but also the other piece of that, although we're talking about employment here, social capital also provides you opportunities to have support and to, have access to those support groups and that sort of thing. For individuals not focusing on employment or post-secondary school transition, social capital is almost vital for them, right? This is that piece where we say if they're not connected to the next thing after school, they transition to the couch because they don't have those connections.
And those are all good examples too, where we talk about going back to those, don't flip back, it's okay. If you want to go back on your PowerPoint, those three types of social capital, the bonding social capital. So those are your neighbors, your friends, like Greg and Alex. That's one of the examples, the neighbors, the bridging social capital. So the next step up, the civic connections, and then the linking social capital. So those we're seeing more in the second example, the support groups, the national groups, the church, things like that. So they're all important and they all have important pieces and important ways to help all folks. So again, being able to access them and have access to them is huge.
As job developers, we really rely on those networks. That's the first thing when I sit down with a new client going through employment, that's the first thing I ask. What are your connections? Who do you have connections with already? And maybe that person, maybe that grandma is not willing to hire, but she might send me down the road to another organization or another restaurant that is willing to hire. Maybe that camp that they go to is like, hey, we're full for the summer. But I know another camp down the road that needs somebody in the kitchen, go there. So maybe that initial contact is not the person that's actually going to hire them, but it's the next one or the next one. But those connections, they're vital. They're important. So we use that social capital, those social networks to find jobs. And if we get somebody who comes to us, it's not the end of the world. If somebody comes to us and says, I don't have really any of those, then we're kind of starting from the bottom and making those connections and using my social capital to find those jobs. But I would much rather use their social capital to find those jobs because it's more meaningful for them as an individual because they feel a connection to that place. Oh, the rain is coming.
Yeah.
I just heard it.
Everybody take a minute to look out the window. And we talk about that. Where do you go? What do you do after school? Where do you hang out? What do you do after? What's your day look like? We ask those things because then we know, do you hang out at the local coffee shop? Do you go to the library? Do you volunteer already at the Children's Museum? So you might be volunteering at the Children's Museum and one of the people that comes in there knows you. They might own a business, work at a business, some connection. It's like a spider web that might be a place where you might want to work or you might want to be a part of. So then it's just connecting those dots and having those conversations.
All of this that we're talking about is social capital, but social capital and self-determination kind of have a lot to do with each other. They kind of put together the puzzle pieces for us. So we always want, when we're doing and planning and anything, we heard it this morning, those individuals are, it's their life. They should be at that table. We heard it this morning. I'm going to reiterate it. They need to be at those IEP meetings. They need to be involved. Their voice needs to be heard. Ultimately, whatever decisions are being made is going to affect their lives. It's going to affect your lives as parents too, but it's really going to affect their lives. It's their choice. They should have the opportunity to have choice and to decide where they want to work or what kind of career field they want to go into, what their interests are, where they want to hang out. It's their life. Person-centered, they're our guiding star the entire time. So does anybody here have, you can just like raise your hand. Anybody here have maybe a friend that works in the medical field that you like call sometimes for some advice, some free advice? Yeah, me too. Does anybody here have maybe somebody who is a pet lover and they know everything about pets, and when your dog is like throwing up in the middle of the night, you text them or call them?
How much Benadryl to give for a
Yes,
storm?
how much Benadryl can I give him so he's like not afraid of the storm, but also not like drugged the entire time?
It's per pound, by the way.
Yes.
So if it,
Does anybody here have somebody who has an English degree that they use as their own personal proofreader? I can raise my hand on that one. Yeah. These are all choices that you have. These are all connections that you have. These are people, part of your social capital, but it's also part of your self-determination. It's part of your choice. You have a choice. I could easily go to Google and Google how much Benadryl I can give my dog. Or I could go to Google and say, does this bug bite, is it something I need to go to the hospital about because now it's turning like black and blue? Or I could call my friend. That's a choice that I have. But the individuals that we work with sometimes don't have those choices, right? They have one choice a lot of times. Or if we do give them choice, it's you have this choice and you have this choice. You have A or B, and they're actually, I want C as my choice. I don't want A or B. That's part of your self-determination. That's part of offering choice. And a lot of times it's, like I said, the fact that there isn't choice available to them. And that comes down to businesses as well. Knowledge is power. Connection is power. We use them. I already told you we use them in our job development. Self-advocacy is also something that helps to strengthen this cycle. Those natural supports that you have, if you're not familiar with natural supports, it's using your social capital as a means of supporting you. Jen and I were here at the autism conference last week.
We've been here like for a month.
Yes, yeah. Just we were at a table and I was drinking my water and she said, "Thank you for reminding me to drink my water." That was a natural support for her. She got up to use the restroom, and that was a natural support for me that, oh yeah, I have been sitting here for an hour thinking I need to go pee, but I don't want to. I don't want to get up. It's a natural support. We all have them. Social capital increases and improves your natural supports because it is something that is you can have it on the job, you can have it at home, you can have it out in the community.
I'm just laughing because this week there's 5 of us together. And even just in the short time we've been here, it's make sure you go get something to eat. Make sure, because we are all in the field where we're like, we're going. Did you get lunch? What do you need to do? Do you want to attend the session or do you want to sit at our table yesterday? So having those conversations, what do you need to be successful? That's what we talk to, we're talking to ourselves and our coworkers and our friends that way. We need to have those conversations with our students and our kids as well.
Absolutely. Self-determination a lot of the times looks like this. It looks like people doing things on their own, right? That's a lot of times what people think of when they hear self-determination. They hear doing it yourself. That means that you have the skills, the supports, whatever, to do it yourself. But actually, in reality, self-determination means that you have choice in choosing what you want to do and who's going to support you and what resources are available to you. A lot of times for the individuals that we work with, like I said, choice is not available to them. They have limited choice. Wow. That
So our
ranking.
choice this morning, not to run our suitcases
Yes,
to the
yes,
car,
that
was
was my choice. So
so we
social,
could be comfortable while teaching. Yeah.
social capital provides an avenue to access the support and resources to fulfill your choices in life. This is true for everyone, but including our individuals with disabilities. It's especially critical for our individuals with disabilities to have choice and access to support to make those choices and connections. We talk about informed choice all the time. We do ACRE support, ACRE courses for individuals who are getting certified and supported employment to do job coaching. We talk about informed choice all the time. The individuals that we work with, our kids, our students, whoever, they might not understand the choices that you're giving them, but if you give them all of the information to understand those choices, that's informed choice. They understand that if I make this choice, this is going to happen. If I make this choice, this is going to happen. Informed choice, it's important. But a lot of times, they need those self-advocacy skills to do those. So that's a piece that you kind of have to work on, and then work on, your informed choice. It was like, where'd that word go?
It's still early.
It's still very early, guys. Another way that we can help increase choice is also by working with businesses and talking to businesses and decreasing the stigma, the marginalization, the myths that are out there that that impact our students, right? Their ability to go and find a job is sometimes, and a lot of times, impacted by the fact that businesses have a misperception of disability, and then they're not opening their doors. So that's our next piece. I'm just setting it up so that we can move on to the next part. See, I did. Oh, see, I did it.
Do you want to switch your spots?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, so this is the fun myths and business concerns. So we did part of this presentation for Geisinger, which is a health system where we're from in central, or not them, I'm from in central Pennsylvania. So Kathy, I know in this room. So we actually did it for an employee resource group that they have. And when they did it, Nicole, who's not here with us today, they did a cute little screenshot of us and dressed us up like the guys from Mythbusters. So I did not copy and paste that image, but that's quite all right. But this is really true. We see this all the time. So we do customized employment at the Arc of Pennsylvania, and that's something I've been doing for like 6 years now. For those of you that are working with transition age students or families that are trying to get your kid a job and you're talking to businesses, I've talked to some of you yesterday about this, just your own agencies that are trying to get, whether it's volunteer work or jobs and careers out there for individuals with disabilities. This is the stuff that businesses are coming back to you with. And we have some data, we have some research, there's information in the Padlet, and this is very common. We hear it across the state, you're going to hear it across the nation. So there's 3 big themes that we hear all the time: employee readiness, competence, and job performance, associated cost, safety, risk mitigation, and liability. I will tell you, the way I teach is I will go off track, get on a soapbox, and then come right back to you.
Right back around though.
We'll bring it back by the time we're done today. This happens with any employee. I am pretty sure no employer has hired the perfect employee. It just happens. So that's it's kind of where I go with that. So again, those are the 3 big myths and concerns we're going to talk about. We're going to hit everyone. You made these fly through, right? Okay, the myth. People with disabilities aren't ready or willing to work. No joke, this comes back. I'm not quite sure why you would not assume that somebody wants to work or is willing to work.
If they're putting in an application for your business, obviously they're willing and wanting to work.
Right.
That's why they're there.
And most people want to work, period. Again, working, usually a career and a job, is part of your self-identity. It's part of who you are. When people are saying, oh, tell me about yourself, you're probably going to add your career. My name is Jen. I work for the Arc of Pennsylvania, blah, blah, blah. That's
It's a
part of it.
valued role in society that you have a job, right? No matter what your job is, it's a valued role. It's something that's kind of expected. You see it everywhere. Everyone has a job. They do something, no matter if you work full-time, no matter if you work part-time, no matter if you are self-employed. It's a valued role in society.
You're actually looking at. That's okay. You use that. That's perfect. Here's the facts. We did this for workforce ages ago, and it was fun because it was during COVID. So we actually did it like a TV show and we went back and forth. It was much more dramatic. Here we go. The facts: 68% of people with disabilities are currently working and or looking for work. 40% of those working say they want more work hours. We also know people with disabilities in the labor force, it is like a third compared to those without disabilities. So again, it is a lower number, but they are looking for work. They are, looking for more work as well. We're also talking about individuals with more significant disabilities. Thanks. The other myth: people with disabilities can only do certain types of jobs. Quick, tell me the 4 F's, Nicole.
Oh.
You know.
My mic on first. 4 F's: flower, fill, file, food. I heard it in the back. Food. We hear them all the time. Those are the avenues for our individuals with disabilities to get jobs. Those 4 places. Guess what? There are other jobs available to them out there. They can get a job anywhere. Anywhere.
It is frustrating when I will go into a big business like a hospital system and they're like, oh, we have positions in our cafeteria and we have positions in our janitorial. And I say, I've got somebody that can work in IT for you. I've got somebody that can be working in the oral surgery department for you. You don't even know who I'm bringing to you guys. That's just open up your minds. So again, those kind of are the 4 that seem to get funneled in. We have worked with high school students that are in high school with amazing automotive skills, amazing skills in the healthcare field, like physical therapy, sports medicine, that kind of stuff. So again, people's misconceptions are huge, and this group probably knows like that's part of our job. That's part of what we do, is change those misconceptions daily. People with disabilities are successful in nearly every career field. I'm successful in a limited career field because that's who I am, but that's how we all are. We've got what we're good at. We know what we're good at. We know what we're not great at. Everybody is like that. So again, we need to not pigeonhole people. 2017, these Accenture studies, and I know it's 2017, but this is still the best data that we have, the most recent, and it's still really good data. 30% of white collar college educated workers have a disability. I just have some cute little. The next myth: employees with disabilities have lower job performance. Because these are all. Employees with disabilities average almost exactly the same job performance rating as those without a disability.
Sometimes their job performance is higher because they want to show up on the job. They want to be there, and they also bring joy a lot of times to the other employees because they're like, I'm just so happy to work.
DePaul University, commissioned by the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce. So I was on a call one time. I'm like, Chicagoland? Is that really a place? It really is, like Chicago. Employees with disabilities can and should be held to the same performance standards as all employees. So we talk about inclusion and we talk about all of that type of stuff. So we are putting folks in positions and jobs that they enjoy doing, that they want to do, that they have that skill set for. So their job performance is going to be equal to or better than any other person that is applying for that job. So again, they're filling out the application. They want to have that job. They're having that interview. They're going through that interview process. There is no reason to think that they would have a lower job performance. If you look at, again, the statistics just blow my mind. If you, again, would take an entire group of your employees, it's a range. You've got people on any given day. My work performance is always not 100%. Tomorrow, I'm probably going to give 40% because it's been a long 2 weeks. You know, it comes and goes. My job just thinking about those types of things. Employees with disabilities need expensive accommodations. If you were we were talking about this yesterday in this room about accommodations and the ADA. This might be one of my favorite facts. Instances where employers reported making a physical accommodation for an employee with a disability, the average expense was $313. I mean, maybe for a small mom and pop farm market seasonal stand, that's a lot of money, but $313 isn't a lot. The average accommodation is less than $500.
Assistive tech wise, if you're looking at assistive technology, less than $500. And sometimes the business doesn't even have to pay for that because there's other wonderful organizations out there that will pay for it or will help with funding for that. But businesses look at an individual with a disability and they say, that comes with a lot of money. There's gonna be a lot of money involved in hiring this person. We're like, not really. Actually, your budgetary line might actually go down. Your productivity might go up.
According to the study funded by the Kessler Foundation, so again, we talk about DePaul, we talk about Kessler, we talk about Accenture. We're going to talk about Walgreens in a little bit. Top 3 requested accommodations, flexible schedule. Well, COVID kind of took care of that for a lot of us.
Who else would like the accommodation of a flexible schedule? Because I am right there.
And most people, most jobs, that's possible. Or you have that conversation with your employer. I think about, my husband's in corrections, so that flexibility, like you got to have somebody there 24/7, but still, I'm going to come in a little later. I'm going to talk to Nicole to see if she can stay a little bit longer. Like you're having that conversation, even if I'm thinking about factories that are running 24/7, those kind of things, you have those conversations. 14% a modified job duty. So I might not be able to do all of the things on my job description. And a lot of those job descriptions are cut and paste. We're going to put that must lift 25 pounds on there for everybody, even though you essentially have a desk job, but maybe you're going to have to lift those 4 cartons of copy paper. But if you just take them one box at a time, it's 6 pounds versus 25 or 30. So those kind of things. So looking at the job duties, looking at the job descriptions and saying, I'm bringing you these 26 phenomenal skills that are going to knock your socks off. Can we talk about this part? Yeah. 1, I'm going to be able to do all these things for your business and provide you with these options and opportunities. Let's really, can we figure out a way to, or can somebody else bring these boxes, things like that.
Oh yes, the 4 F's again for anybody who has missed them. So food, filth, flour, and file. Like filing work.
Yeah, I think
data entry.
Childcare got thrown in there sometimes.
Yeah, it doesn't fit with the F's though.
I know.
Doesn't fit with the theme. Maybe filth if you're working with kids. They're dirty.
Yeah, diapers. They're dirty. They're dirty. They're. And then the other one, 13.6% building accessibility being addressed. We talk a lot in ACRE about accessibility and disclosure, and a building can be accessible. And if you call and say, is your building accessible? Well, yeah, they're going to tell you their building is accessible.
Of course it's accessible. There's a law about that. They don't actually know what the word accessible means and what accessible actually looks like. They're like, yeah, we have an elevator and a ramp. That's all you need. Are your doors too heavy? Can your doors open automatically? Are there stairs?
Open out to a ramp.
Yeah, does it? Yes, yes.
It's not helpful if your door opens out and it's a ramp up.
Yes.
Local place that I go to. Yeah. And also accessible to you and your needs. Like it might not be, or the rest of the building. What does the office space look like? Are you able to maneuver in a space like that? If you're a space like this using a certain type of a wheelchair, this would not be accessible. So thinking about those types of things. The investment of time for training new employees with disabilities is too great. Part of me wants to say, wow, that's just a really crappy reason.
Take time to train all of your employees. And sometimes you have to train them over and over and over again. They're there for 2 weeks and then they leave. And now you're training somebody new. But now I'm bringing you an individual with a disability who, guess what? They want this job really, really bad. And they love this company and they love what you do. And they're going to stay for a lifetime if they want to. And now you don't have to retrain somebody. Guess what? Your training budget just went down significantly because you don't have to do it over and over and over again.
And there's a chance that they already qualify for supports from other agencies. So other agencies can come in and train the staff, train your employee. That's something the Arc of Pennsylvania does, so thinking about those kind of things. And then I love one of the notes that we have really is talking about. The important question is whether that person is qualified to do the work and competitive in terms of what the job requires. So if that person with a disability is the higher qualified candidate, they need to be offered that job. Then you work through these things like that. That's it. That's the end of the story. As a business, I think that's one of the hardest things that we see when we do job development. Either businesses don't know who to turn to for help and support for accommodations or ideas or resources, or it's just not even on the radar. So that's something I think when you talk about connections and agencies and resources, to just talk to your local businesses. And all of us that work together do that. We're just like, hey, this is who I work for. This is what I do. Maybe I can help you with this sometime. Let me show you what you can be doing. Those kind of things. So again, offering that. Employees with disabilities increase costs due to increased absenteeism and higher turnover rates. So this is like the complete opposite of what folks believe. Wow, how did I do that? I was so quick on those. There we go. Retail sector workers with disabilities have fewer unscheduled absences than those workers without disabilities. Again, a DePaul study, and the average turnover rate was significantly higher for team members without a disability as compared to those with a disability. We are finding employees who want to work in positions that they enjoy. So we're matching their skills, their interests and talents. You're making sure transportation is covered. You're getting them to work. So all of those reasons where an employee without a disability might not make it to work, that's already covered. So again, you're taking care of all that for them. You're setting up systems for this person to be successful before they even start. In some cases, you're going to these businesses and saying, I see local hospital system that you've got 36 extra shuttle buses hanging out. You've been telling me that you have calls from people with CDLs looking for jobs, and you also have an issue across your footprint of people not making it into work. So my idea was, nobody did it yet, but hire those CDL drivers, start taking your shuttle buses and picking people up in different locations across the counties. So then you're picking everybody up. I said, I don't know how to do that, but I'm just telling you, that's what I would do with those extra things. So again, the employee with a disability is coming with these plans already in place. It is a job they want to do. It is a position they want. You've already set them up for success. So the increased absenteeism and higher turnover rate isn't going to happen. Employees with disabilities are more likely to have an accident or be injured on the job. Guess what? They're safer. Go ahead. Do you want to take this? I got to grab a drink. Just switch real quick. Okay.
I guess I shouldn't turn both of my mics on at the same time. So data shows that from numerous studies on disability employment, it's not true. Safety comes first. From the day that a child with a disability is born, safety is our number one concern. Right? We talked about it. There's been, sessions here this week talking about safety. It's a huge concern. They have those skills. They are taught it from a very young age, safety wise. They usually know their weaknesses because of our teachers that are wonderful and helping them to recognize what they can do and what they can't do. And they recognize those things. And when somebody asks them to do something that they're not sure that they can do, they're going to say, If they have those self-advocacy skills, guess what? I don't know if I can do that. That's an accommodation that we then need to make for them, but usually they don't take on things that they can't do. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they do not. So.
Another myth, it is too difficult, controversial for employers to take disciplinary action with employees with disabilities.
You can fire them. You can fire an individual with a disability. If they don't show up to work, you can fire them. They are like any other employee. We are not treating them with kid gloves or whatever. Like they're your employee. If you would fire somebody else for something that they did, then you fire them. That's it. It's a part of life. Loss of a job. It is a part of life that we have all probably experienced, no matter if we saw it coming or not. I was a COVID pandemic tragedy, casualty. I lost my job because of it. But guess what? I, cried for 3 months and then I got a new job. I wound back up on my feet. It happens. It is something that happens in life. You just got to move, find the next job.
Come to our acre training because there's a day where she talks about that. I think it's
Quite a few. There it is. I have quite a few soapboxes that I like to get on acre. It is a thing.
And sometimes this is educating the managers and the supervisors. And we have been in that position where they're like, what do we do? So-and-so did ABC. Well, you follow your disciplinary policy just like you do any other employee.
What does your handbook say?
Yeah.
Does your handbook say that after 3 absences that they are placed on temporary leave or they're fired or whatever it is? Okay, that's what we're doing. Keep following it. We're not treating them any different than anybody else. They are people. That's it. They are people. If they don't do the job, guess what? This is a natural consequence of you not showing up to work. This is a natural consequence of you not completing the tasks that you were supposed to do or asking for help or whatever it is.
And it is a lot of this is educating that employer. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, it takes time and it is tedious and it is painful at times. Another myth, employers are more likely to be sued by employees with disabilities. I think like big companies are so concerned about this. And then I also think you're a big company, so come on. Like how much is that going to really hurt you? But the majority of ADA employment related disputes are resolved through informal negotiations or mediation. And if you're set up right and doing the right things, this shouldn't be a concern. And if you're open and honest and having conversations and truly listening and hearing your new employee, this shouldn't be a problem. If someone files a complaint of the discriminatory treatment, denial of accommodation or harassment under the ADA and does not have a condition that meets its definition of a disability, the complaint is dismissed. So again, this is one of those things where people hear the story of my aunt's cousin's sister filed an ADA complaint and got like $465 bazillion from, Ben and Jerry's. It's, that's not what happens. So the facts are important. And again, thinking about the number of what that truly is. And again, you're getting a good employee. Why? You're setting everything up for, again, I said this 6 times at least already, success. Why would this even be a concern? And if you're hiring a good employee, chances are you can hire somebody who slips and falls because you didn't have the wet floor sign up. And it's somebody that you just hired 6 weeks ago, and they're going to sue you as well. So again, but these are huge, huge concerns that we see.
And we're not saying that it doesn't happen, because it does. There are employees who sue their companies because of an ADA concern. But we're saying that it's one story, and then, the local news takes it, and then the bigger news takes it, and then the bigger news takes it. And then before you know it, every business is like, I don't want to hire them. They're going to sue me. It was one case that happened like 10 years ago. And you're still talking about it. It was one case. I can tell you there are millions of individuals with disabilities who have gotten jobs and have not sued their employers. It was one case 10 years ago.
Check the date before you
Check
start
the
on
date.
Facebook. My mom does that. It's all good. This is some stuff. The Walgreens study, when you have time, I want to go down this rabbit hole. It's great to Google. And it's all on the Padlet. The Walgreens study on hiring diverse workforce. It's great. A welcome surprise has been that the process of ensuring that the needs of workers with disabilities are met has resulted in management, equipment, and work culture improvements that benefit the entire workforce, regardless of disability status. Unambiguous policies, clear language, and flexible training options all contribute to a culture where safety is valued and expected for all employees. So, when we're in school, and I used to do early intervention, when you're talking about the supports that you provide for early intervention or supports that you provide in a classroom and universal design for learning, and usually helps all students. The stuff that you do in a business also, chances are, is going to help all employees or a large number of those employees. So again, it cleared up unambiguous policies. Most of us probably have a job where there's unambiguous policies, or just wasted space, wasted time, wasted words. Clears up language, flexible training options, all things that support all workers. Companies that adopt best practices for hiring and supporting people with disabilities outperform their peers. 28% higher revenue, 2 times net income, 30% higher economic profit margins. That's the numbers businesses want to see because they're worried about their bottom line.
And we're giving you this information so that when you do have a conversation with a business, no matter why you're here, you can tell them these stats. We gave you these studies so that you can use them. This is the only way that we're going to be able to change the minds of business owners, is if we are all talking about it and telling them, hey, you're wrong. Like, you're wrong. Like, your thought, your belief is wrong. I know in this society, it's very difficult to have that conversation with somebody. You don't want to walk up to them and be like, guess what? You're wrong. Your thought, it's wrong. But sometimes we need to do it because it's the only way that these myths are hopefully finally someday going to go away, and that our individuals with disabilities can be just like anybody else. They can apply for a position and just get hired because of the skills that they have on their resume or the experience that they have.
Did we put our fact sheet on the Padlet? Yes. Oh, good.
There are fact sheets on the Padlet that you can print out and take them with you to the businesses.
And then you all need to buy a busted stamp and just walk around with it, because that's what I was. Yeah. And I was telling somebody when we've had conversations with a guy singer for years, and I finally have said to them, your questionnaire for hiring is really, really ridiculous. It's like a personality test online. And I said, guys, this is not helpful to hire somebody, but I had a relationship with the people I was talking to. I didn't walk up to them the first meeting and go, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But they're like, yeah, and our website isn't really user friendly. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I can help you with that too. Those kind of things. So again, that's information you've got on the Padlet. You can share it. You can hand it out. You can just XOXO. Here's some information. Love, Jen. Please change what you're thinking. But this important impacts though. Increase innovation. So again, hiring, diverse hiring, all this good stuff. Develop strengths such as problem solving skills, agility, persistence, forethought, and a willingness to experiment. So we know individuals with disabilities need to be creative to adapt to the world around them. They bring all of those characteristics into a business. So that was Nicole Terman's part. She will be proud of us. Help me. What was that?
We love a good technology when it decides to work, right?
I'm used to doing Zoom in my office at home. What I wanted to talk to you about, well, we all did, but how to spot an inclusive workplace. So again, as you're out and about in your travels, in your life, in your personal time, because we all do this. I'm looking at you guys. We do this in our own life just because of the job that we do. We're scoping out businesses. We're looking at what's going on. We're not judging, but taking notes kind of things.
This is a judgment-free zone, completely judgment-free.
But there is a coffee shop in my town that has a heavy door that opens up and the ramp goes in. So if you're pushing somebody in a wheelchair, you got to throw a hip into the door and then throw the kid essentially up the ramp in a wheelchair. So that's what I always laugh about. So again, looking at an inclusive workplace, some things that you might see that are really helpful. So using technology. So we know technology offers, it's a reasonably priced accommodation. Most businesses now are using technology in ways that we have not seen before. So that's huge.
And when we say technology, we're not necessarily meaning like a laptop or, anything that comes along with that. When we say it's assistive technology, we mean putting tape on the floor. You can put duct tape on the floor to allow somebody to know where to put a specific box, or where they need to stand when they're doing a job, or how to line up the laundry cart underneath the chute so it collects everything and nothing falls out. Using a Bluetooth mouse is a piece of technology. We all have tech. I'm looking around. I see people have Apple Watches on or other smart watches. It's a piece of assistive tech that we use every day. My phone is a piece of assistive technology. I set reminders. My Alexa at home. I'm sorry for those of you at home, if now it's yelling at you. She's a bit of a reminder. She's assistive technology that I use every day. So assistive technology is not something that is specific for the individuals that we support or that we work with. It is everybody uses it. It's just as natural as anything else in our world.
I'm just thinking a lovely piece of assistive technology would have been Jen, stay in this box. Unless you've got that mic on, because we walk around when we talk. It's all good. The other thing when we were talking about that assistive technology, also going back to access to hiring, so their online platform, thinking about that. What does their hiring process look like? Can you fill out the application online? Do they have different options for that? That's something to really think about too. Partnering with a job training agency, that's kind of what I talked about earlier. A lot of businesses don't do that. That's something you can suggest they do, and then say, hey, call your local Voc Rehab, call your local ARC chapter, things like that. They can profit words again. It's hard. They can partner with these nonprofit agencies. So there are job training agencies that can provide job coaching, that can provide them with employees who want to work in their businesses. So again, you're bringing support, you're bringing resources that company then might not have to pay for. So when we were talking about that $313 or $500 or things like that, an agency might be able to cover that for them. And again, those agencies might have a whole group of people that are looking for jobs in a variety of the career clusters of Pennsylvania that might fit what that business needs. So you're getting qualified staff coming in from a job agency that already knows the unique contributions that these folks are going to bring, and then can offer support and training for the staff of that business and for the new employee. You want to look to see if those businesses are incorporating disability and awareness acceptance in the workplace. So you can say, we are diverse, we do that diversity, equity, inclusion thing, and you can have that stamped on all types of things, but are they really doing that? Are there trainings that are being offered on disability awareness? Inclusion should be part of their ongoing plan. So it shouldn't be like, oh, it's Disability Awareness Month, we're going to celebrate it in October. But maybe we'll celebrate it in March too. So we're just going to do it twice a year.
I mean, we celebrate in March, we celebrate in April, we celebrate in October, July,
December,
all of them.
good.
It's fine.
So again,
Everybody should be celebrated all year long. That's it.
Making sure it's part of that business's culture. And when I'm talking business, I am talking small, large. When we go out and talk to companies, we are talking to local mom and pop shops, but we're also talking to Advanced Auto, Sheets, hospitals, larger businesses, the TJX Corporation. So it's like Marshalls, Home Goods, TJX, or TJ Maxx, all of those. Do they have equal opportunities for advancement? That's huge. Because if you are qualified and you have those skills, you should be able to apply an interview for advancement within a company, period.
That includes if you have a customized job. If you get a customized job and you want to move up the ladder to a different position, a regular position that has opened.
Or across the ladder.
Yeah, whatever. You can do that. You have the right to apply to that. If you have the skills, you should get the job. But in those instances, we can't, give preferential treatment to are individuals with disabilities, we want to look at the skills that they have. Do you want to move somebody who is already working for you sideways to another position and add more job tasks onto their plate? Or do you want to hire somebody from the outside world to come in that you then have to redo all their training, and maybe they'll stay after 2 weeks, and maybe they'll stay after 90 days or whatever it is.
And there I just spent a whole lot of money on my training
So much money.
and interviewing, and maybe they came. Yeah. Do people with disabilities hold leadership positions? Just want to simmer on that one for a little bit. How many of you see that? 1, 2, I see like 3 or 4 hands. That's great. Maybe 5 hands. We need to see more of that.
Mhm. We already talked about their views that they have and the innovation that they bring to the table. We should be listening to that, especially those bigger businesses who are making decisions on product lines and the way that they're building buildings and whatever else happens in society. They need to be listening to these innovative people that are thinking and looking at the world in completely different ways that you and I might, and taking it and putting them in leadership positions and putting them on their board.
Yeah, that's huge. And then again, thinking about, does the company have equitable policies across the board? And that might not be something you know from the get-go. You might have to do some research, whether that's looking at their website, their online presence, looking at LinkedIn, looking at Indeed, getting copies of their policy and handbooks as somebody starts working there, those types of things. But really thinking about that. And not to say don't work there if any of those things aren't in place, but hopefully that would be a really good company to get involved in. Inclusion happens when everyone in the company understands the value of hiring a diverse workforce.
Inclusion doesn't mean that they're at a table that's in the corner and they're down the hall and away from, just because they're in the building doesn't mean that that's inclusion. Inclusion is a feeling. You can feel included. It's an active thing that you do. So just because they're in the building doesn't mean that that is an inclusive workplace. They can say, hey, look at this person that we hired. Isn't it wonderful? We're such a great person because we hired this individual with a disability. And you're like, yeah, that is great. You took the first step to the road of inclusion. Are they invited to your happy hour that your business does after work? Are they invited to the company picnic? Do they eat lunch with everybody else? Those are inclusive opportunities that those individuals need to have access to and should be taken a part of. Do they now have a broader social capital because they've made friends with the people that they work with? Do they have a workplace mentor? Do they have a support there? Do they have somebody they can go to and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me?
I broke the coffee machine.
I broke it. Can you help me?
We talk about that. Somebody we had found a customized job for. She was 21. She was living at home at the time. Oh, she was older than 21. And part of that company's culture was they like went out for trivia and drinks on a Thursday night. And she was living at home at the time. And she was talking to her job coach and she's like, listen, all of my coworkers are going, and it was great. She was included. She was part of the team. She was working. She was going out with her coworkers. They were doing all the things. And her mom was like, listen, Nicole, I don't want you going out Thursday night. And she's like, but I'm an adult, but you're still living under my roof and those things. So we actually helped her kind of navigate that social piece of like, listen, I can't go out now. Well, she ended up getting her own place, which is great. Cause then I think like the first Thursday that came around after she got her own place, she went out Thursday night, trivia, drinks, all that great stuff. So again, that's truly being an inclusive part of your company. We've been asked to come, my coworker Anthony and I, I was like pre-COVID, so, 65 years ago, we were asked to come to a big company warehouse. It was in Kutztown, and they were talking about inclusion and hiring individuals with disabilities, and they wanted it to be a diverse workforce. So Anthony and I go down because we do customized employment. So that means we're going to create a new job description for somebody. They're going to work in this warehouse, matching their skills, interests, and talents with specific needs in that warehouse. A little different than supported employment, where you're filling an open position, but we can all work together. We got down there, we're with other people that do supported employment. We're super excited. This is going to be great. We're down there for 2 days. The head honcho in the like eastern part is talking to us about this. They're talking and talking, and they start talking about enclaves. And what they wanted was a group of individuals with disabilities to be working in this gigantic warehouse in that part of the room with a couple job coaches doing, it wasn't piecework, so they were going to get paid an hourly rate, but they were just going to be doing specific things while the rest of the warehouse culture was doing their own thing. So Anthony and I are very professional. We're sitting at this meeting, like writing notes back and forth and like, oh, we're here for 2 days and this is really not our wheelhouse. So we gave information and we provided information, and it wasn't what we were able to do. So again, they were kind of on their road to inclusion, but in a different way that our company was able to help. But that's how they were going to start, which makes sense. They were hiring people, they had openings, they were going to start with a job coach because they felt that was, they were still working with the myths. They felt that was safe for their company. Bringing people in, having them work in an area, and then we're looking around going, oh, I've got people that could be driving your forklifts. It would not be a problem. So again, you know, being aware of those things and, you know, sharing the information that you know. One of the last things that we really wanted to cover and things that you can think about and look about is, or look for, we talk about universal design in education and, you know, access to the curriculum and access to everything, universal design in the workplace. And that's really where universal design started. It actually started designing a flight suit or a flight seat in the military. But thinking about universal design in the workplace with employee workstations. I have a desk that in my house that's it's electric, stands up, goes down. I can stand, I can sit, those types of things. What does your employee workstation look like? That's universal design. You can make it work for you. The mouse, those kind of things.
When I think of universal design, I think about those Google, not classrooms, Google offices, kind of very similar to what this office looks like on the slide up there, where it's just like a whole bunch of different places that you can work in. You can sit at the desk if you want to, you can sit in a cubicle if you want to. There's a big table if you want to collaborate together. There's open spaces, there's comfy chairs. That's what I think of when I think of universal design. It goes a lot farther than that, but like that's a nice jumping off place. There's plenty of room in between all of those places that somebody who uses a wheelchair could easily maneuver around there. Somebody who might have a visual impairment and uses a cane is going to be able to navigate their way around there because it's just an open space.
Yeah, going to my box, flexible seating. The only thing that would bother me is that looks loud, but yeah. So bring headphones, make your own comment. It's all good. So again, looking at workplace technology and tools, work policies should be universally designed for all employees, as well as interactions and communication. Some folks communicate better with a phone call, some with a text, some with an email. I will tell you, if you are giving me important information on a phone call, just send me an email. It's not going to get done if you're talking to me about it because I'm going to write it. Well, if I can write it down, I'm going to write it down and then I'm going to lose that piece of paper. So just send it to me in an email. Online accessibility, talked a little bit about that. The online presence needs to be accessible as well. So looking at that website, looking at that, if it's Facebook, TikTok, things like that. The alt tags, translating those visual imaging and captioning on the videos. And again, making it easy to navigate, because if people are looking to your business online, they need to be able to get that information online. And then just a few slides. Again, these will be on the Padlet. Benefits of hiring an individual with disability. These are the benefits to your business. So if you go into a business and we're like, well, we're going to just bust all your myths, and here's why you should hire me. Here's why you should hire someone with a disability. Turnover is going to be reduced by 20 to 30%. This is the stuff, again, businesses want to hear because this is their bottom line. They're thinking about that fiscal piece. Well-run outreach effort coordinates and takes advantage of recruiting resources of the state, community-based organizations, and schools. Again, with the transition from school to career instead of school to couch, looking at that. Then you're reducing the need for recruiting, you're reducing the need for ads and all of those types of things. So that's going to lessen your budget in that area. Out of the approximately 56 million people with disabilities, which is 19% of the population, 13.3 million reported difficulty finding a job, but are seeking work and are able to work. So again, businesses could focus their outreach on finding individuals with disabilities who want to work and who want to work for them. Results from the program have shown workers with disabilities have had equal to greater productivity and fewer safety incidents. So again, busting those myths. There are eligibility tax credits. When we talk to businesses about these, we don't throw these out because you should want to hire somebody because they're the best person for the job and the position, not because you're going to get a tax credit. That's just our opinion.
We like to say it's a sweetener.
Yeah.
It's the cherry on top of the sundae, because we know policies change, administrations change. This might not always be available, and we don't want somebody to lose their job because that business was like, well, I hired you because I got the tax benefits for it. And we're like, no, well, you got a really good employee and that should be why you want them there,
Right.
not because you get to pay less in taxes.
And then again, by setting up specific disability related programs and completing a targeted marketing effort, companies can expect an increase in patronage from the disability community. And that's some great data on that as well. So just some all over benefits for a business, small business, large business, everything in between. And then we just like this.
We love this photo.
Yeah.
It's one of our favorites.
Yeah. So the person on the left says, I would just be doing them a favor. And then the person on the right who is sitting in a wheelchair says, I'm the best person for the job. And that's really what we should be looking at. You should be hired because you're the best person for the job.
Unfortunately, a lot of people, not just businesses, fall into that. Oh, I'm just doing them a favor. Look at me being such a good human for doing this for somebody who has a disability. And it's like, no, you're treating them like a human. Like you're giving them a job. You're giving them a valued role in our society. That's it. They're human.
Also see that on Acre.
It's a much longer rant on there, but
so again, connecting the dots. Social capital helps a job seeker find and get a job by using those social connections. So you want to make sure you are out there making those social connections in your neighborhood, with your friends, with your family, school, community, all of those, and helping your student, helping your child make those connections. Businesses support the new employees with assistive technology and universal design. And you guys can find some great resources to help those businesses if they need it, or contact us and we can send you some good resources. In return, businesses get a quality employee who is prepared for success with their supports.
it's a win-win situation for everybody, for everyone involved. The job seeker gets a nice job, the business gets a good employee, you as a job coach or a supported employment, that sort of thing, you get to take another client off your caseload because you just made a win.
And you've got somebody in the workforce contributing part of their life. And again, when we talk about that's part of your life. So you've got a job, you've got your social life, and you're part of your community. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have any questions on the chat? No? Okay. I wanted to start there. Sorry, there's like no easy way to like get back here quickly. I'm gonna sneak right in front of you guys. Yeah, it's okay.
So this is totally my fault because I arrived a little bit late. But you mentioned some resources that we would be able to print out. Where are those located?
There is a Padlet. And I don't know if you can get back to that slide, Jen.
Sorry.
It's okay. We'll put it back up for anybody who needs it. There we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was an amazing presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anybody else? There you go.
One of the things that I heard you talk about that I totally think is necessary is the advocacy part of a young person going into a job situation and really having a well-rounded idea of their abilities, but more importantly, how unfortunately an employer may be viewing them sitting in an interview, but how important it is for them to have answers for the unasked questions. Oh, you brought an interpreter. They can't really talk about that. But what we can do is teach our young people how to handle that. If you're willing to self-disclose, yeah, you see, I have an interpreter with me today, and let me just tell you how I can benefit your place of employment. Here's how I'm going to be best able to communicate with your managers on a day-to-day basis, or here's how I'm going to best communicate with my peers. I just want to let you know that I am the best candidate for this job. And I think we can really make a point as our young people are developing career interests in getting them comfortable with how they can present themselves in such a positive light when they meet an employer or meet someone new for the first time that may not understand, but may have very hidden impressions, perhaps misunderstandings. And I just really want to stress the importance as youth are developing those career interests, the importance of them having a really good idea of themselves and building that confidence and the ability to talk about how they can benefit this employer, how they can benefit this volunteer situation. And I think that's something that we teach kids how to advocate in a classroom, talk to the teacher, but everything's kind of arranged for them. And I really believe that when we give them and empower them to have a well-rounded idea of themselves and what assets they have to offer, I think it can be really the changing point in that interview.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to say, when we talk about that, you advocate, and I always encourage kids, and even as when you talk about that, yes, I have an interpreter and I talk with my hands a lot. And you then spin that's yes, I have an interpreter. That's not all of who I am. Here's what I'm bringing to that job. And just like we would do that, you talk about what you're good at. The interpreter is just how I communicate. Here's the other parts that I'm bringing to my job. We always talk about in elementary school, they always do like an all about me page. Here's my, the things I'm really good at and things like that. You can practice that too. Do an all about me page, age appropriate. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I might enjoy doing. Here's some things that I might need help with. Here's the supports that I need for that. And whether it's an actual physical page or you practice having those conversations, what are you going to say when they ask you about your interpreter? What are you going to say if they ask you about this? Absolutely. And having those true conversations. We talk about that a lot, about disclosure.
Yeah.
What are you comfortable talking about?
Yeah, that's an active informed choice, is disclosure and having that conversation. If I disclose to an employer that I have a disability, then I can get all of these protections from the Americans with Disabilities Act. I can get reasonable accommodations. I can get all of these things. But if I don't disclose my disability, and then maybe 90 days down the road, I get a bad review because I didn't say anything. And now they're like, hey, you're not meeting our expectations. You said you could do all these things, but guess what? You're not. And now we have to maybe fire you or put a plan in place to like increase these. So there, two different ways. So it's an important discussion to have as parents, have that discussion with them. They don't have to disclose. It's not something you have to do, but it is important to do if you are seeking or need a reasonable accommodation.
I just wanted to note on that real quick, what you were discussing there, and I can't take credit for this, but I'm a transition coordinator, and one of our teachers that runs one of our project search sites, she was phenomenal. She retired last year, so I'm very sad, but she did such a great job of her students that she had in the program. She would do resumes with them, but she would always create a virtual link at the bottom that showcased them doing different things within the project search program, so that when that was sent out, then the employers could look at, what they were able to do and what they were successful with.
So cool. In the world of customized employment, we do visual resumes, very similar to that, where it's a PowerPoint presentation where you are talking about and showing photos of this person doing the amazing work that they already know how to do and all of the skills that they can do and then now can be applied to a position.
I'm just gonna have you talk and I'd yell into the mic. Yeah, she can come up and talk on it.
It's not on, Kathy.
I'm a transition coordinator of a school district, a rural school district, but I'm also a parent of my middle son is a severe stutterer and my oldest son, I have 3 sons, and my oldest son also has a disability. And so one of the things that I want to mention, like you said down there was, my son is a severe stutterer. So when he went in for the first time for a job interview, of course, as a mom, you're a little nervous about that whole thing because he's going there to talk to somebody. What's that going to mean for him? He's going to be stressed. He's going to be stuttering like crazy. And are they going to listen to him? Are they going to think something's wrong? Or they're not going to hire him for that position? So, you know, we talk about it. And luckily in my job, I've done this with other students as well. Unfortunately, you have to stop treating the disability as if it's something to hide because it's not. And in some respects, it's even more important. So I said to my son, you have to treat your stuttering as it's the elephant in the room. So like the first thing you can go in is, by the way, hi, my name is Aiden. It's nice to meet you, because he's already stuttering at that point. By the way, I stutter and it's okay. You can ask me questions. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous, but when I get nervous, I stutter a little bit more. And so just be honest about it. So he went for an interview. He ended up getting the job. And the first thing the employer said was, I was so appreciative that you came in and told me about your stuttering. And he's like, do you mind when we come in to meet? Because there's a bunch of other new employees that were coming in. Do you mind if I kind of reference that so that they understand? And they're not going to judge you based on that, because they will. Like we can say, oh, you shouldn't say that, but let's face it, they're going to judge him. So again, the elephant in the room. And I also had a student who had identified with autism, and she had certain like tics that she would have. She would sit there and she would do this and rock in her chair. And we were going for an interview. And I said to her again, like, so I worked really hard to advocate for her, to get her to advocate for herself. So we talked about how her autism impacts her. Like, what does she do? Which, by the way, she'd never talked about before. It was kind of like this hidden thing that I try to hide. So once we talked about it, I sat down with her and I actually put her through a mock interview with somebody else so that she could try that out. And she said, by the way, I wanted to let you know I have autism and these are the ways that it impacts me. However, I don't really need any accommodations for the job. This is just some of the things I'll do. So if I'm sitting in the chair and I'm rocking like this, it's okay. That's because I have autism. And she ended up getting the job. So this is kind of the things that you look at. Now, one other thing that you talked about, that employer who has that stuff in the back. I do this a lot. So I have, I work with multiple businesses. One of the things that I would tell you or give you advice on is to ask them to take a student in there for 2 weeks. Can they volunteer for 2 weeks just to show you what they can do? That usually wins them over almost 100% of the time. And then they end up allowing them to work there. So, and once you get your foot in the door, it just opens it wide up. And then before you know it, they're contacting you or other businesses are contacting you saying, can I take employees? So it's just one of those things that I've learned after 9 years of doing transition coordinating for kids.
And in a rural area, I'm going to give you mad props because
Yes.
we come from a rural area and Kathy's made huge connections with those businesses
Mhm.
to do that. And it has been